Every tech company on the planet claims their platform is safe. They show you the safety measures, the cases processed, and their investment in the well-being of vulnerable users. But you can build the safest car in the world, but if the brakes occasionally stop working for no apparent reason, it isn't safe enough. Today, we're looking at the massive invisible gap between evidence of safety, what the platform says it's doing to keep users safe, and how safe users actually are. With a car, this distinction seems obvious and clear, but with tech, we haven't quite made it there yet. Let's take a look. This is Quiet Costs. I'm Angeline Corvaglia. In 2024, Sextortion was thriving on Instagram. Teenagers were getting coerced into sending explicit messages, then blackmailed with threats to share those images unless they sent money or more content. The pattern was clear. Lots of people were talking about it, and Meta needed to respond, so they built new features. Instagram now blurs nude images and DMs before you open them. You get an "Are you sure?" prompt when you're about to send or receive potentially sensitive content. There's also educational content on the app about extortion risks. After parental advocacy groups documented that perpetrators were using DMs to initiate contact, Meta limited DMs from strangers to teens and restricted who can message teens who don't follow them back. After reports showed that teenagers weren't enabling the blur feature because they didn't understand the risk, nudity protection automatically blurs images detected as nude without requiring user opt-in. After law enforcement documented accounts systematically targeting multiple minors, Meta added account restrictions for adult accounts that show suspicious patterns of contacting minors. After mental health organizations reported that sextortion victims didn't know where to get help, they built reporting flows specifically for sextortion that connect users to support resources. Each feature was a response to documented pressure. Each one generated evidence that Meta was taking comprehensive action on sextortion, but all those features failed to address the core problem, the coercion, the manipulation tactics, the threats that made a teenager send the image in the first place. A blur feature and a warning prompt don't stop someone from being blackmailed. DM restrictions don't stop perpetrators who establish contact through public comments first. Nudity protection doesn't address threats that work before any images are sent. The person threatening to share screenshots of a conversation, unless the victim sends explicit photos, doesn't care about nudity detection. The threat still works. The victim is still trapped. Meta's feature announcements and the progressive rollout of safety additions all look like comprehensive action. They produce evidence that Meta took sextortion seriously. What they don't produce is a teenager being less likely to get coerced in the first place. The coercive relationship that produces the harm stays intact, but the features satisfy the requirement to show you did something. Meta transparency reports don't track whether sextortion rates declined after these features shipped. They track feature adoption rates, how many users have the blur feature enabled, how many warning prompts were shown. These metrics demonstrate the feature exists. They don't demonstrate that teenagers are safer. This is the gap, evidence of safety versus actual safety, and it's not just Meta. The mechanism can be seen again and again whenever tech companies need to demonstrate to regulators and shareholders that they've addressed harms. Those demonstrations require numbers, content removed reports, processed policies, updated response times. Those numbers serve the company's accountability requirements. They don't serve the person being harmed. In early 2026, OpenAI released their safety framework for autonomous AI agents. Extensive documentation about behavioral guardrails, use case restrictions, monitoring protocols. The framework demonstrates OpenAI conducted thorough safety reviews before deploying agents that can take action on a user's behalf. What it doesn't show is agents in production taking actions users never authorized. An agent interprets "help me stay organized" as permission to create accounts on external platforms. An agent detects financial stress in conversations and initiates loan applications without asking the user. Reads calendar context about relationship difficulties, and starts researching divorce lawyers. The safety framework documented what the agents shouldn't do during controlled testing. It didn't document that the agents can't distinguish between schedule my meeting and represent my identity on external platforms when operating in the real world. The pattern exists because evidence of safety serves different masters than actual safety. Google releases its annual AI Principles report, pages and pages documenting responsible AI commitments, government structures, ethics review processes, third-party audits. It reads like a comprehensive approach to safety. Meanwhile, YouTube's recommendation algorithm is still optimizing for watch time. That optimization creates predictable patterns. A teenager watching fitness content gets recommended increasingly extreme diet content. A parent researching vaccines gets recommended anti-vaccine conspiracy theories. Someone watching news clips gets recommended progressively more sensationalized political content. Google can document its AI ethics process. The recommendation algorithm still produces radicalization pipelines because the core metric is engagement, not safety. The ethics documentation serves Google's institutional accountability needs. It doesn't change what the algorithm optimizes for. All of this doesn't happen because the people building these systems are malicious. It's because the measures of success are compliance metrics, not outcome metrics. When you measure whether you published an ethics framework, rather than whether your systems actually produce safer outcomes, you optimize for the things that you measure. Meta runs the Oversight Board. It looks like accountability infrastructure, but what it doesn't do is hold Meta accountable for the algorithmic amplification that made the harmful content viable in the first place. The Oversight Board reviews whether specific content should stay up or come down. It doesn't review why Meta's algorithm recommended that content to thousands of users before anyone reports it. A practitioner in Brazil documented this pattern. A piece of disinformation about election fraud got amplified by Meta's algorithm to 400,000 users in 6 hours before it got reported and removed. The Oversight Board can review the decision to remove it. The Oversight Board has no jurisdiction over why the algorithm amplified obvious disinformation to nearly 500,000 people in the first place. Meta points to the Oversight Board as evidence of accountability. The algorithm that created the harm isn't in the Oversight Board's scope. That's not accountability. What's important to note once again is that the evidence and the record aren't always in sync. A platform can be doing everything right according to the standard evidence of safety model, and yet the record of harm can still present challenges. This tells us that safety isn't just something a platform does, it's something the user experiences. OpenAI can point to authorization compliance rates in testing as evidence. The agents are safe. The agent's actual safety depends on whether those authorization checks work. When users give vague initial permissions and the agent operates for weeks without oversight, those two things are not the same. Google has similar gaps with its content policies on YouTube. The policies prohibit harassment, hate speech, misinformation. The enforcement metrics show millions of videos removed for policy violations. What's not measured is whether the creators whose videos got removed are still operating under new accounts, whether the audience that consumed that content before removal got recommended similar content from other channels, whether the incentive structure that rewards sensational content over accurate content has changed. Google can document policy enforcement. The conditions producing the policy violations remain unchanged, and that's the gap. Let's look at the real-world cost of all of this. Imagine students report harmful content on Facebook. The content gets removed. Same content reappears from different accounts. The students stop reporting because they realize the system isn't designed to address the source of the harm. It's designed to process reports. Meta can show report processing metrics. Those metrics don't capture that the kids learn not to trust the reporting system because it doesn't actually stop the harm. That's a measured success, creating an unmeasured failure. OpenAI documents extensive AI safety research papers, published safety techniques. All of this is real work. All of that appears in the evidence column. What doesn't appear is practitioners on the ground trying to build AI literacy programs for communities who don't have the technical background to understand how these systems work. The safety research is published in academic venues those communities can't access. The techniques are described in a language those communities don't speak. OpenAI safety research serves the AI safety research community. It doesn't serve the practitioners trying to prepare communities for AI systems they're already encountering. The evidence of safety work exists. Communities aren't safer for it. The pattern stays broken because fixing it would require measuring different things. Measuring whether people are actually safer is harder than measuring content removed. It requires trust relationships with communities and users. It requires longitudinal tracking of outcomes. It requires admitting when systems fail, even when the metrics say they worked. Meta would need to track whether the person who reported harassment feels safe enough to continue using the platform, whether the reporting system creates protection or just documentation, whether harmful actors are being stopped or just having their content removed while they remain active. Those measurements are expensive, they're qualitative, they can't be automated. They require proximity to the communities and the users being harmed. They might produce results that show the current approach isn't working. It's much easier to measure content removal volume and call it success. Google would need to ask whether people consuming content on YouTube are becoming better informed or more polarized, whether the recommendation system is helping users find quality information or trapping them in filter bubbles, whether the platform is producing social benefit or social harm. That measurement would require accepting that the core business model, advertising revenue driven by engagement, might be incompatible with user safety. That's not a measurement most companies want to take. So what's the way forward? Meta will continue pushing transparency reports. OpenAI will continue publishing safety research and safety metrics. Google will continue demonstrating commitment to AI ethics through governance frameworks and third-party audits. The governance between safety and actual safety persist because the systems producing that evidence are working as designed. The design is the problem. What can change it is practitioners who measure actual outcomes in their communities and have the resources to build infrastructure that produces protection rather than documentation. Resources flowing to the people operating inside the trust relationships where safety becomes real. Regulatory frameworks that require outcome metrics rather than accepting process metrics would also make a big difference. The companies producing evidence of safety aren't going to stop. That evidence serves real institutional needs. The question is whether we build the infrastructure that measures what actually matters, whether people are safer, alongside the infrastructure that measures what's convenient, whether policies are followed. Right now, those two measurement systems exist in parallel. The companies measure compliance. The practitioners measure outcomes however they can, but without many resources. The gap between them is where harms persist. While success gets reported, evidence of safety is what organizations point to. Safety is what people experience. Ultimately, the evidence of safety and the actual record of safety are two sides of the same coin. The goal isn't to choose one over the other, but to integrate them. By looking at both the safeguards we build and the outcomes our users experience, we can create a more robust, more honest standard for what safety really looks like in the digital age. It's about moving from a model of compliance to a model of comprehensive protection. Thanks for joining me for this conversation.